Hello, and welcome back to The Real Hollywood. Today we delve into the story of a face that, for a generation, was synonymous with fun, magic, and the boundless possibilities of being a kid. The story of Michael Galeota. For millions who grew up glued to the Disney Channel at the very cusp of the new millennium, he was Nick Leiter, the charming, relatable hero of a show called The Jersey. His was a life that seemed blessed by the unique magic of Hollywood, but the real story, the one that unfolded long after the cameras stopped rolling, is one of quiet retreat, silent struggle, and a profound tragedy that serves as a powerful reminder of the fragile line between the characters we love and the complex human beings who portray them. This is not just a story about a former child star. It's a story about an era, about the pressures of a life lived in the spotlight, and about a health crisis that hides in plain sight, even from those we think we know. To truly grasp the world that shaped Michael Galeota, we have to understand the unique cultural climate of the late 1990s. It was an extraordinary time to be young, a brief sunlit patch of history nestled between the end of the Cold War and the seismic shocks that would define the 21st century. The world felt like it was holding its breath, standing on the threshold of a new millennium. For perhaps the first time in generations, there was a palpable sense of widespread optimism, an underlying belief that things were, on the whole, getting better. The economy was booming, fueled by the dizzying rise of dot-com companies, and it felt like a new era of prosperity was dawning. This feeling trickled down into everyday life, creating a culture that felt less cynical and more open to possibility than the one that had come before it. At the heart of this change was technology. The nascent internet was a frontier, a strange and wonderful new landscape we were all just beginning to explore. It was a place of screeching dial-up modems, that unforgettable digital handshake that announced your connection to the wider world. It was the thrill of hearing you've got mail from your boxy desktop computer. We navigated this world through AOL chat rooms and primitive search engines, and the very idea of a web page was still a novelty. This was an internet of patience, where you'd wait minutes for a single image to load, pixel by painful pixel. It hadn't yet become the all-consuming, ever-present force it is today. It was a supplement to our lives, a fascinating new room we could choose to enter, not the house we all now live in. This pre-9/11 world had its own distinct flavor, a look and feel that is now the stuff of fond and sometimes cringeworthy nostalgia. Fashion was a bold, often questionable mix of rebellion and conformity. You had the impossibly baggy JNCO jeans, skate shoes worn by kids who'd never touched a skateboard, and of course the ubiquitous cargo pants with their endless, mostly empty pockets. For guys, frosted tips were the height of cool, a look that required a careful application of bleach and a whole lot of hair gel. The music that filled the airwaves was just as distinctive. It was dominated by the slickly produced, impossibly catchy pop of boy bands like NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys, who battled for chart supremacy against pop princesses like Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera. Their songs, many crafted by a handful of Swedish super producers, were precision engineered for mass appeal, creating a global soundtrack of synchronized dance moves and heartfelt ballads. It was a culture unapologetically marketed towards youth, a demographic that for the first time held immense economic and cultural power. And at the absolute epicenter of this youth-centric universe, holding more sway over the hearts and minds of tweens than any other single entity, was the Disney Channel. Throughout the 90s, under the ambitious leadership of executives like Michael Eisner, Disney methodically transformed its television network From a sleepy premium channel showing old cartoons into a full-blown cultural phenomenon, they perfected a formula, creating a self-contained ecosystem of entertainment that was both aspirational and deeply relatable to its target audience. This wasn't just about putting shows on the air, it was about creating a brand, a lifestyle. The masterstroke of this era was the Zoog Disney programming block, which debuted in 1998. Hosted by quirky, semi-robotic animated characters, it was designed to feel interactive, like a clubhouse. The Zoogs would talk to the audience, read viewer emails on screen, and make the whole experience of watching television feel like a shared event. It was social media before social media existed. This era also saw the birth of the DCOM, the Disney Channel original movie. These weren't just made-for-TV movies, they were monthly appointments. A new DCOM premiere was a reason to have your friends over for a sleepover, a shared experience for millions of kids across the country. Films like Zenon, Girl of the 21st Century, with its futuristic slang, and pop star heroine Smart House, a techno fantasy that now feels eerily prescient, and Johnny Tsunami, a classic fish-out-of-water story about a surfer kid in Vermont, weren't just movies. They were cultural touchstones for an entire generation, each with its own catchy soundtrack and memorable catchphrases. The original series were the network's daily lifeblood, and they all followed a comforting, successful formula. Shows like Lizzie McGuire and even Stevens mastered a specific kind of storytelling, navigating the low-stakes, high-drama world of middle school with a blend of slapstick humor and genuine heart. The problems were real enough to feel relatable. An embarrassing moment in the cafeteria, a fight with a best friend, a desperate attempt to be seen as cool, but they were almost always tidily resolved within a 22-minute runtime. The parents in these shows were present and loving, but just clueless enough to let the kids be the heroes of their own stories. The stars of these shows were crafted into idols. They were talented, certainly, but they were also meticulously packaged to be non-threatening, wholesome, and accessible. They were the idealized friend, the perfect girl or boy next door. They smiled from the covers of magazines like Tiger Beat and J14, their interviews carefully scrubbed of any real controversy. Their posters adorned bedroom walls. They were the product of a powerful, well-oiled machine designed to capture the hearts and minds of young viewers, and it worked to perfection. Life inside this Disney bubble, however, was an experience few can comprehend. It was a world of immense privilege and equally intense pressure. From the outside, it looked like a dream, but on the inside, it was a demanding full-time job. These young actors were expected to be consummate professionals, to hit their marks, memorize pages of dialogue, and work grueling adult hours, all while juggling schoolwork with on-set tutors in makeshift classroom trailers. Their childhood was, in essence, put on hold, replaced by call sheets and production schedules. Beyond the professional demands, they were expected to be ambassadors for the Disney brand, maintaining a squeaky clean public image at an age when most kids are allowed, and even expected to be awkward, rebellious, and make mistakes in private. For these young stars, every public outing was a potential photo op, every interaction a reflection on their corporate employer. They were living in a gilded cage, suddenly shouldering the financial hopes of their families and the expectations of a global entertainment giant. This was the world that a talented young actor from Smithtown, New York, was about to enter. He wasn't just auditioning for a role. He was auditioning for a place in this carefully constructed universe, a universe that could make him a star, but would also demand a piece of his childhood in return. Michael James Galeota was born on August 28, 1984. Growing up in Smithtown, a sprawling suburban enclave on Long Island. His early life was, by all accounts, rooted in a classic American normalcy. Smithtown was the kind of place with tree-lined streets, neighborhood parks, and a strong sense of community, a safe, comfortable world, but one that could also feel a million miles away from the electrifying pull of New York City. But it was clear, even from a young age, that Michael possessed a natural talent for performing that was bigger than his suburban surroundings. He had an expressive face that could register a dozen emotions without a word, and an innate ability to connect with the camera, a rare, unteachable quality that seasoned casting directors are always searching for. His family recognized this spark in him and supported his ambitions wholeheartedly. This was no small commitment. Soon, the Galeota family's life began to revolve around a new routine: the trek into New York City for auditions. You can picture it: early mornings catching the Long Island Railroad, the rhythmic clatter of the train, carrying them from the quiet of the suburbs into the roaring vertical canyon of Manhattan. For a young boy, it must have been an incredible sensory overload, stepping out of Penn Station into a chaotic symphony of sirens, crowds, and endless energy. They were joining the legions of hopeful young actors and their dedicated parents, all chasing the same elusive dream, a dream held in sterile casting rooms under the harsh glare of fluorescent lights. The life of a child actor is a relentless grind, a full-time job that often gets romanticized. The reality is far less glamorous. It's a job that requires the discipline of an adult and the thick-skinned resilience to handle constant, soul-crushing rejection. For every yes, for every callback, there are 100 no's, 100 moments of being told you're not quite right, not tall enough, not short enough, not the look they had in mind. It's a brutal process for anyone, let alone a child trying to find their place in the world. But Michael persevered. He possessed a quiet determination that saw him through the disappointments. He began landing small but significant roles that slowly, methodically built his resume. In 1995, at the age of 11, he got a part that would put him on the map, a guest spot on the medical drama powerhouse, ER. It's hard to overstate what a cultural behemoth ER was at that time. It was the #1 show on television, a pulse-pounding, critically acclaimed series that had turned its cast, including a then-ascendant George Clooney, into international superstars. In his episode, Michael played a young boy caught in the middle of a tense domestic situation, a role that required a maturity and emotional depth far beyond his years. For a young actor to not only get a role on a show of that caliber, but to hold his own amidst its chaotic, fast-paced environment was a massive vote of confidence in his ability. It proved he wasn't just another cute kid. He could handle serious, dramatic material and deliver a compelling performance under pressure. A year later, he took the lead in a family film called Clubhouse Detectives, a charming mystery that allowed him to showcase his ability to carry a movie. This was a different kind of test. As a guest star, you're a small piece of a larger puzzle. As the lead, the entire story rests on your shoulders. It was a chance for him to prove he had the charisma and stamina to be the central focus, and he succeeded, turning in a natural and engaging performance. Then in 1997, he appeared in another television giant, the quirky legal dramedy Ally McBeal. The role was a small but fascinating one. He played the younger version of Robert Downey Jr.'s character in a flashback. It was a pivotal moment, a young rising star portraying the childhood of a legendary actor who was in the midst of his own celebrated career comeback. Each of these roles was a crucial learning experience, a piece of his informal education. He was a young apprentice learning his craft on the most professional sets in the business. He He was observing veteran actors up close, seeing how they prepared, how they took direction, how they found the truth in a scene. He was absorbing the complex rhythms of television production, learning the language of the set, and building a reputation as a reliable, talented young professional. He was proving he had range. He could do the heavy drama of ER, the light-hearted adventure of Clubhouse Detectives, and the quirky comedy of Ally McBeal. He had the undeniable likability that made audiences root for him, and the professional chops that made directors want to hire him. He was ready for his breakout moment. He just needed the right vehicle. That vehicle, as it turned out, would be a piece of old, magical sportswear. In 1999, Disney Channel was looking for a new series to anchor its lineup. They found it in a wonderfully simple yet brilliant concept based on a series of books by Gordon Corman. The show would be called The Jersey. It's centered on a group of 4 friends in fictional Leathersport, Connecticut, who discover an old football jersey in an attic. This jersey, they soon learn, has a fantastical power. It can transport them into the bodies of professional athletes during the live sporting events. The casting of the show's central character, Nick Leiter, was paramount. He needed to be the audience's surrogate, a regular kid, not a super cool jock or a nerdy genius. He had to be relatable, grounded, and believable in his reactions to the incredible situations he found himself in. Michael Galeota was perfect for the role. He had the quintessential every kid quality. With his easy smile and expressive eyes, he could convey wonder, panic, and determination, often all in the same scene. He was joined by a talented young cast. Courtney Draper as Morgan Hudson, the intelligent and resourceful girl next door, Jermaine Williams as the wisecracking, sports-obsessed Coleman Galloway, and Todd Walensky as the nerdy but loyal Elliot Rifkin. Together, they had an incredible natural chemistry that formed the heart of the show. The premiere of The Jersey on September the 24th, 1999, introduced audiences to this compelling world. The pilot episode saw Nick using the jersey for the first time, zapped into the body of NFL quarterback Steve Young. The execution was ingenious. The show used real game footage, seamlessly integrating the fictional narrative of the teens, trying to navigate a high-stakes professional environment with the actual spectacle of the sport. One moment, we're with Morgan and Coleman in a bedroom, watching the game on TV and communicating with Nick via walkie-talkie. The next, we're seeing through Nick's eyes on the field, hearing the roar of the crowd, facing down a defensive line. This unique format was a stroke of genius. It appealed to a broad audience. It was a fantasy show for kids who loved magic, a sports show for kids who idolized athletes, and a coming-of-age comedy for everyone in between. Michael's performance was the glue that held it all together. He expertly portrayed the awe and terror of his situation. He made you believe that a 15-year-old was suddenly in control of a world-class athlete's body. The show wasn't just about the thrill of the game. It was about the lessons learned. Each episode came with a moral about teamwork, perseverance, friendship, or empathy. By literally stepping into someone else's shoes, the characters learned to see the world from a different perspective. Over its 5-season run, The Jersey featured an incredible roster of sports royalty. The kids jumped into the bodies of NFL legends like Peyton Manning, Donovan McNabb, and Marvin Harrison. They took to the basketball court as WNBA stars Lisa Leslie and Cheryl Swoops. They hit the ice as NHL player Scott Gomez, rode the halfpipe as skateboarding icon Tony Hawk, and even took the wheel as NASCAR driver Tony Stewart. The show became a cultural touchstone, a beloved part of the Disney Channel lineup, and Michael Galeota became a household name for its young viewers. He spent his entire adolescence, from age 15 to 20, as Nick Leiter. Think about that. While most teenagers are navigating the halls of high school, trying to figure out who they are, Michael was spending his days on a television set, playing a single character. This is one of the most profound and rarely discussed aspects of a child actor's life. Your identity becomes inextricably linked with your on-screen persona. You grow up, but the public sees you frozen in time, forever as the character you played. For 5 years, Michael Galeota was the boy with the magic jersey. It was a role that brought him fame and success, but it also created a powerful public image that would be incredibly difficult to move past. When the jersey ended its run in 2004, Michael was a young man of 20. He had spent a third of his life on the show. Now he faced the daunting challenge that confronts every child actor, the transition to adult roles. It is a notoriously difficult leap. The industry that cherishes youthful precociousness can be brutally indifferent to young adults who are no longer cute kids. The roles that were once plentiful suddenly dry up. Casting directors struggle to see you as anything other than the character that made you famous. For Michael, the years after the jersey were quiet. His acting career did not continue on the same trajectory. He appeared in a short film here and there, but the momentum had stalled. There were no public scandals, no dramatic flameouts that often make headlines. Instead, he seemed to make a conscious choice to step away from the relentless glare of the entertainment industry. He pursued other interests, including working in real estate and branching out into other areas of the film business behind the camera. He was attempting to forge a new identity, to build a life for himself outside the shadow of Nick Leiter. This period of his life is, by its very nature, less public. It's the story of a young man trying to find his footing in the world, just like any other person in their 20s. Friends and family would later describe him as a deeply kind and humble person, someone who was always there for others, quick with a joke, and never one to boast about his past fame. He was, by all accounts, a good man, a loving son and brother, but he was also carrying a heavy, invisible burden. Unbeknownst to even some of those closest to him, his body was fighting a losing battle against a series of serious health conditions. The final week of Michael Galeota's life is a story of quiet suffering and a series of tragic choices. In early January 2016, at the age of 31, he began experiencing debilitating abdominal pains. The pain was severe enough that he sought medical help, admitting himself to a local hospital. Doctors ran tests and quickly became concerned. His symptoms, combined with his medical history, pointed to serious underlying issues. They strongly advised him to remain hospitalized for further evaluation and treatment. We will never know the exact thoughts that went through Michael's mind in that hospital room. Perhaps it was fear. Perhaps it was a feeling of invincibility, a common sentiment among young people who can't imagine that something could be seriously wrong. Perhaps it was the daunting reality of navigating the American healthcare system. For whatever reason, he made the devastating decision to go against the advice of his doctors. He checked himself out of the hospital and returned to his home in Glendale, California, likely believing he could manage the pain on his own. In the days that followed, a wall of silence went up. Friends who tried to reach him by phone got no answer. Their texts went unread. The vibrant, funny young man they knew had suddenly gone quiet. The concern grew with each passing hour. On Sunday, January 10th, a close friend, fearing the worst, went to Michael's home to check on him. After getting no response at the door, he found a way inside through a window. The scene, he discovered, was one of unimaginable tragedy. Michael was unresponsive in his living room. He had passed away alone. He was only 31 years old. The news rippled through the internet, a shocking headline that seemed to come out of nowhere. Disney star Michael Galeota dead at 31. For a generation of millennials, it was a sudden, heartbreaking collision of their nostalgic past with a harsh adult reality. The smiling, energetic kid from the Jersey was gone. The immediate question on everyone's mind was how? The answer, when it came from the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office, was both medically complex and profoundly human. The official cause of death was ruled as natural. The primary factor was atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. This is a condition where plaque made of cholesterol, fats, and other substances builds up inside the arteries, causing them to harden and narrow. It restricts blood flow and can lead to heart attacks and strokes. It is a disease that develops over many years and is typically associated with older adults. For a 31-year-old to die from it is a tragic anomaly. This condition was exacerbated by hypertension or high blood pressure, which relentlessly strains the heart. The report also confirmed what the doctors in the hospital likely suspected. Michael was suffering from diverticulitis, an inflammation in the digestive tract that caused the severe abdominal pain he had been experiencing. It was a perfect storm of chronic silent diseases that had finally reached a fatal tipping point. In the wake of this tragedy, Michael's family was left to pick up the pieces, consumed by a grief that was now complicated by the public nature of his life. To help with the unexpected financial strain of funeral arrangements, his brother Jimmy created a GoFundMe page. The message he wrote was a window into the soul of the man they had lost. It is with tremendous, heartfelt sadness to announce the passing of Michael James Galeota. He began. He was a precious gift, loving, giving, compassionate, happy, and intelligent. His humble nature, great sense of humor, and the joy he brought to so many will be missed. The words painted a portrait of a man defined not by his fame, but by his character. The fundraiser's goal was met and exceeded in a short time. A flood of small donations from friends, family, and strangers who had been touched by his work decades earlier. It was a poignant digital memorial, a testament to the fact that, even after years away from the spotlight, he had left an indelible mark. So, how do we process a story like this? What is the ultimate significance of Michael Galeota's life and untimely death? His story resonates on multiple levels. It is first and foremost a human tragedy. It's about a family that lost a beloved son and brother far too soon. It's a somber reminder of our own mortality and the importance of cherishing the people in our lives. Culturally, his story serves as a powerful artifact of a bygone era. It forces us to look back at the late 90s Disney machine with a more critical eye. We can appreciate the joy and entertainment it produced while also questioning the long-term impact on the young people at its center. The debate over the industry's responsibility to its child stars is ongoing, and stories like Michael's add a layer of tragic urgency to that conversation. He wasn't a cautionary tale in the typical Hollywood sense. There were no drugs or scandals. His was a quieter, more insidious struggle, which in some ways makes it even more unsettling. It speaks to the private pain that can exist behind even the brightest public smile. His death is also a significant public health warning. It is a stark illustration that heart disease is not just a concern for the elderly. It is a silent epidemic affecting younger and younger people, often driven by genetics, diet, and lifestyle factors. Michael's case forces us to confront the importance of proactive health care, of listening to medical professionals, and of advocating for our own well-being. The what-ifs are agonizing. What if he had stayed in the hospital? What if his conditions had been managed more aggressively years earlier? We can't know the answers, but his story implores us to take our own health and the health of our loved ones Seriously, the legacy Michael leaves behind is a complex one. It's found in the happy, nostalgic memories of those who grew up watching him, but it's also found in the difficult, important lessons his story teaches us about health, the pressures of fame, and the need for compassion. He was more than just a face on a screen from a bygone era. He was a son, a brother, and a friend whose life, though brief, had meaning and impact. And in remembering him, in telling his whole story, we honor not just the character he played, but the all too human person he was.